Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amy Parker. I am the Senior Manager of Communications at the National Ageing Research Institute, or NARI. Welcome to our online Seminars in Ageing program. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which each of us are meeting today. For me, that is the Wurundjeri Wurrung people. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waters across Australia. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples, including members of the Stolen Generations. Firstly, a little housekeeping regarding MS Teams. At the conclusion of today's talk, we'll have some time for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can submit them through the seminar using the Q&A function, which can be opened using the Q&A tab at the top of your screen. It resembles two speech bubbles, one with a question mark on it. The chat function is turned off, so please use the Q&A. You are muted and your camera is turned off by default. So if you prefer, during the Q&A, you can actually use the raise your hand function in the meeting controls, also at the top of the screen, and that's marked with a hand symbol. And we'll allow you to unmute yourself and turn your camera on to ask your question. Today's seminar will be recorded and uploaded to our website and our YouTube page within a few days. So please keep in mind, if you do turn on your audio and your video to ask a question, you will be included in the recording. So on to today's seminar in ageing. So today we'll be hearing from Ella Cooper. Ella is an accredited clinical exercise physiologist with a strong background in both clinical practice and health system improvement. She holds an undergraduate degree in clinical exercise physiology, a graduate diploma in health service improvement, and is currently completing her master's in health service improvement. Over the past 4 years, Ella has worked across a range of private and public healthcare settings, bringing a thoughtful and outcomes-focused approach to her work. She has a particular interest in preventative health and is passionate about supporting individuals to maintain function and independence across the lifespan. She is an inaugural member of the Centre for Strong Medicine team at Concord Hospital, where she provides patient-centric, evidence-based care for older adults. So today, Ella will be presenting about the Centre for Strong Medicine at Concord Hospital, which is a multidisciplinary service designed to improve function and quality of life in older adults living with chronic disease and frailty. Based on the original Balmain Hospital Strong model, which was established in 1999, the program integrates progressive resistance training, nutrition, and comprehensive geriatric care to address key contributors to frailty, including sarcopenia, osteoporosis, and falls risk. Aligned with national and international guidelines, such as the 2017 Asia-Pacific Clinical Practice Guidelines for the Management of Frailty and the 2024 Global Consensus on Exercise Recommendations for Longevity, the Strong program emphasises tailored, high-intensity and periodised exercise approaches. Since launching at Concord Hospital in 2022, the service has assessed over 780 patients with a completion rate of approximately 90%. That's pretty impressive. Patient-reported experience measures have indicated high satisfaction, and strategies are in place to support ongoing physical activity beyond the program. This presentation will outline the clinical framework, the evidence base and outcomes of the Strong model, as well as its role in addressing the growing demands of an ageing population. So thank you for being with us today. Welcome, and over to you, Ella.
Thank you very much, Amy, and good afternoon all. I am both excited and honoured for this opportunity to present about the work of our service at the Centre for Strong Medicine, Concord Hospital. So as Amy alluded to, today I'll be discussing the background and evidence base of our outpatient multidisciplinary geriatric service, which is aptly named Strong. Then I'd like to present some strategies and examples to help promote exercise adherence, as the overall message I'm trying to reiterate today is that people are never too old to start exercising. So what is Strong? So Strong is an acronym that stands for Strength, Training, Rehabilitation and Outreach Needs in Geriatric Medicine. And as Amy said, it is based on the Balmain Hospital Strong service that was founded in 1998. So Strong was developed to integrate the use of exercise as medicine into the model of geriatric care and to help treat and manage a multitude of geriatric conditions, including sarcopenia. We know that strength is directly related to function and independence. And unfortunately, strength naturally declines 1 to 2% per year after the age of 50, with muscle power declining almost twice as fast as strength. Therefore, to prevent or delay sarcopenia development, we must aim to maximize muscle growth in youth and young adulthood, maintain muscle mass in middle age, and minimize muscle loss in older age. And how do we achieve this? I know you're wondering. And the answer to that is through moderate to high intensity resistance training. So suboptimal physical activity levels directly correlate with an increased disease prevalence in aging populations. We know that the Australian Physical Activity Guidelines recommend strength training on 2 days of the week. However, looking at this graph, we can see that the average Australian over the age of 65 is not meeting those guidelines. So that's where we come in at the Centre for Strong Medicine. So looking at the evidence behind our service and behind what we do, we firstly have the 2017 Asia Pacific Clinical Practice Guidelines. And these guidelines have 7 recommendations for the management of frailty. I'd like to bring your attention to 3 of these recommendations. Firstly, the recommendation to include progressive, individualized physical activity programs that contains a resistance training component. The third recommendation there, that polypharmacy needs to be addressed. And the 5th recommendation, when unintentional weight loss is present, diet is screened and supplementation considered. These 3 recommendations see the basis for a multidisciplinary team with the ability to manage frailty and falls risk factors. And essentially, this sets the basis of all that we do here at Strong. Looking at the evidence a little bit closer, the global consensus on optimal exercise recommendations for enhancing healthy longevity reported that tailored exercise programs have proven effective in helping older adults maintain their functional capacities and enhance their quality of life. But specifically, progressive resistance training is particularly important for those with frailty, sarcopenia, or osteoporosis. When specifically looking at resistance training, the recommendations are that higher intensities are preferred for most benefit, and that older adults should be performing individualized, periodized training and working the major muscle groups at, as I said, a high intensity for at least 2 to 3 times per week. We already know that people aren't doing this, so that's why support and guidance is needed in the form of, for example, our service. Now, finally, we've proven that exercise interventions improve the hallmarks of frailty, such as low body mass, strength, mobility, and energy levels. However, when paired with a nutritional intervention, there is an additive effect. This therefore strengthens the case for multidisciplinary approach to geriatric interventions to improve and manage frailty among other comorbidities. Now, I know that I've been talking a lot about resistance training, but that is only part of what we focus on at Strong. So if we were to look at osteoporosis, for example, there are additional recommendations. So we can see here that this table lists progressive resistance training as one of the key management strategies for osteoporosis, but it also includes impact loading training and balance training. And these are both other modalities of exercise that we carry out here at Strong. Now, looking specifically again at osteoporosis, physical activity and exercise have an important role in the management of osteoporosis, as exercise can help to promote bone strength, reduce falls risk, and help to manage vertebral fracture symptoms. Exercise should form part of a broad approach that includes positive lifestyle changes combined with pharmacological treatment where appropriate. Now, in health, we love using a flowchart to help inform decision making. So this flowchart on the screen is an example of the decision-making matrix for prescribing exercise for osteoporosis management. And it involves a steady stream, a strong stream, and a straight stream. And we typically will use this flow chart and look at the person in front of us and talk with them about which stream would probably be best for them in terms of managing their osteoporosis. And most of the time, it's that combination of steady, so balance training, and strong, which is resistance training, which I just spoke about. But as I just alluded to, so we don't only do resistance training. In addition to our resistance training, we also prescribe high challenge balance exercise. Research shows that regular exercise can reduce falls risk by 23%, but by including high challenge balance exercise, it can increase the effect of exercise on falls risk reduction by 40%, which therefore makes balance exercise extremely important for our population to help manage and reduce falls risk. Overall, the message I'm trying to get across here in setting the scene with our background evidence is that any exercise will help to manage frailty, sarcopenia, osteoporosis, and a multitude of other comorbidities. But the more individualized we can be with the exercise selection and prescription, the higher the effect will be on the individual. Additionally, the recent global consensus on optimal exercise recommendations has found that the economic analysis underscore the cost benefits of exercise programs. So all in all, we know what the literature and the research says, but how does this all translate into a hospital outpatient setting? That's why I'd like to use the example of Strong to show you how this looks in real life. So Strong at Concord Hospital is a multidisciplinary outpatient geriatric service that aims to support older adults with chronic disease and frailty to improve function and quality of life. Our team comprises of geriatricians, exercise physiologists, and a dietitian, and we've been operating for almost 3 years. Typically, our patients will attend the program for 8 to 12 weeks, with a frequency of coming into the gym once to twice a week. But again, this is individualized and changes depending on the needs of the patient. Often it can be the patient's first time exercising in this environment, but I always like to take the approach that is an exciting thing rather than a daunting thing, and that they, whatever age they are coming to us at, they are about to learn something new that is going to better their health in the long run, and that often almost every other person in the room with them has also never been in this environment before, but they have that shared goal of wanting to improve their health. We promote right from the beginning that although this may be the first place they exercise, it won't be the last. And a huge part of our job is promoting self-management so that patients feel confident and equipped to continue exercising once they've completed the program. And I'll talk more about our strategies of how we do that in time. So who comes to our service and how do you be eligible to attend Strong? So we see adults over the age of 65 with one or more chronic conditions that are known to be responsive to exercise. And this is actually a short list. Our actual list is a lot longer, but these are the common conditions that we see at Strong. And typically we see people with a multitude of a combination of these things. But as well as having a chronic condition, they also must be able to attend the hospital for assessment and gym sessions and be able to participate in about 1 hour of exercise at a moderate intensity. And the final eligibility criteria that I think is actually the most important is they have to have a goal of functional, mood, and or health improvement, in the sense that they have to want to be here and they have to want to get better and have a goal of improving. We can't give them that motivation. They have to have that when they come in. So looking at the people that we don't see, so some patients can be medically excluded if they present with any of these conditions listed on the screen. Some of these conditions are time inclusive, and so if enough time has passed and they get medically cleared, they can then attend the program. But specifically, we've got to think about that when people come in, they're exercising in a group environment with gym-based machines. So they have to be able to hop on and off equipment in a group environment safely. They also, as I alluded to in the last slide, they have to be interested in exercising, and they have to want to keep exercising in some capacity once they've finished and graduated from our program. So who actually attends? So this is some up-to-date statistics of as of yesterday. So at the moment, the average age of patients we are seeing is 80, and this has actually stayed consistent for the entire 3 years we've been operating. At the moment, we're seeing slightly more females than males, but again, this changes. And the 7 most common conditions we are seeing are listed here. So frailty, falls, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, depression and anxiety, cognitive impairment, and chronic pain. And as I said earlier, typically people will come in with a combination of those conditions, if not more. Now, we are very popular at Strong. So our current wait time is 10 months, and that equates to 233 patients currently waiting to see us. As Amy said at the start, we have assessed close to 800 people, and of that, 87% have completed the program. The 10% who I suppose don't finish, they don't finish for a variety of reasons. Those reasons include either they move either out of our catchment area or potentially into an aged care facility, transport, health change that is an acute health change that maybe we are no longer the right service for them, or they kind of lose interest and no longer want to attend. So looking at the patient flow for our service. So a medical referral is needed to then be considered and eligible for our program. So typically a referral will come through from the GP and be triaged by the geriatricians. During the triage process, patients are then prioritized based on medical urgency and reason for referral. So patients may be prioritized if they have unplanned weight loss, recurrent falls, or imminent loss of independence. The geriatrician assessment is a comprehensive assessment to determine program eligibility and screen for any contraindications that were on that ineligibility list. Following the geriatrician assessment, if the patient is eligible, they will then attend an exercise physiology and diet assessment. During these assessments, we prioritise goal setting, discuss medical, social and exercise history, as well as screen for any red flags such as frailty, falls risk, malnutrition, pain. We then conduct some physical assessments, and some of those involve a functional performance battery, which is called the short physical performance battery. We try and test strength using a leg strength exercise. We screen for malnutrition, we screen for frailty, and we look at their how fearful they are of falling using the fall self-efficacy scale. And I suppose this whole assessment, the subjective and objective measures, then help us inform what exercises that patient is going to do when they start exercising in the program. So in terms of what we provide, the exercise intervention is an individualized, progressive, multimodal program. So individualized meaning the exercise is catered to that person. It's progressive in nature. That means that at the start of the program, because it's probably the first time they've ever exercised, we started a light intensity, and then guided by the patient over the 8 to 12 weeks they are with us, we can then gradually make things harder as they get stronger and more confident in the gym. Multimodal means that we're using our strength training, our resistance training there, our balance training, and aerobic exercise if clinically appropriate. So patients do all of that once to twice a week in a supervised group environment. We typically have about 10 patients exercising and 3 of us exercise physiologists, always in the room, always supervising them. In terms of the diet intervention, it is an individualized strategy, so a one-on-one assessment with the dietitian, and she provides supplementation advice and supplements themselves as clinically indicated. So looking more specifically at, I suppose, at what a typical strong exercise session would look like. As I said, we tend to be progressive in nature and trying to focus on all of the major muscle groups, but always at the end of the day, we're patient-centric and we're always wanting to do what the patient wants to do and what their goals are. So a typical session, we'd spend about 30 to 40 minutes performing strength exercise. And again, looking at the major muscle groups. So those exercises would include a leg press, a leg curl, a seated row, a tricep extension. So for anyone in the audience who is familiar with the gym environment, you would kind of can visualize what these exercises look like and then visualize an 85-year-old on them. So it's great what we do in our gym. We then go into about 10 to 15 minutes of challenging balance and functional training. So this would look like performing some static positions. So as you can see there, there's a heel to toe position. That's a static balance position that we would get patients to try and stand in for about 20 seconds. We can then get them to practice some more dynamic balance movements, such as stepping up onto stairs and avoiding obstacles while walking. Then, if clinically indicated, we would get the patients to do about 10 minutes of aerobic exercise. And this machine in the bottom right-hand corner is what we call a new step, and it's a patient favorite, and it's essentially a recumbent stepping machine. At the end of their gym session, if indicated by the dietitian, they would then receive a protein or energy supplement. They get through a lot in an hour. So looking at some of our outcomes. So after 12 weeks, we have seen significant improvements in the following areas. So frailty status has improved, full self-efficacy has improved, which means patients are less fearful of falling. We've seen on average a 1-point improvement in function and quite impressively a 34-kilo improvement in leg strength. Nutritional status has also improved. So what we're not surprised by this because we are evidence-based. So we know that if older adults are performing in this type of way, they should see improvements across all of these areas. So it's always nice when the outcomes reflect that. And I've previously described that in our reassessments, we also get patients to complete an anonymous PREM, which is a patient-reported experience measure. And this helps us to understand the patient experience, and it allows us to identify potentially where there are ways that we could improve. And these are just some of the comments we've received, and I'd like to share them with you now because I think it's quite empowering to hear what our patients have to say about the program. So firstly, my legs feel stronger, getting out of a chair is noticeably easier. My balance is much better. I can walk with confidence now. I can't believe I can stand on one leg for 15 seconds. I'm proud. I'm more confident and less fearful of falling. I've enjoyed learning a new type of exercise and skill that will better my health. I like that it isn't medication or surgery. And finally, I thought as I got older, I would only decline, but this program has made me realize that it is not necessarily the case. But that is not where it ends. As I have already mentioned, exercise adherence is imperative to maintain and improve muscle strength and overall function. So a big part and a big focus of what we do is discharge planning. And discharge planning starts quite early on in the piece because we need our patients to be aware that they're not staying in the gym forever, and this is just a boost in their health so that they continue independently or with supervision in the community. So we like to provide patients with 2 different options for discharge. One of those options is a home-based exercise program, and we run through exercises with them so they feel confident to perform them independently or with supervision at home. And we also provide a community-based exercise recommendation. And when we're deciding with the patient which community-based exercise option is right for them, we take into account all of these considerations. So transport, finance, access, session time, language, exercise mode and level of intensity, and the degree of supervision. And we need to have those in-depth conversations with the patients, discussing all of these considerations so that we can try and mitigate any barriers that could arise, so that the options they have at the end of their program are the most sustainable for them. So we implement strategies to encourage this continued engagement in exercise. And this framework is actually based on the Engaging Older People in Physical Activity, which is by the Victorian Active Ageing Partnership. So the first method that we use is that buy-in and support of all staff from first contact. And typically our first contact is either with our admin staff or the geriatrician. And both those two parties are saying from the get-go, this is a short-term program with the aim to improve your function, your strength, and your health, hopefully. But the long-term aim is that you get the skills, you gain the confidence, and then you are helped to facilitate into a community-based exercise option. So that's kind of leading to the second point there, is that patients understand from the beginning that the plan is to transition to community exercise, so that when they are in their 8th week, they know that it's their final week and that they're about to transition into community-based exercise, and that's not a surprise to them at all. We encourage our patients to build self-management and self-efficacy, and we do this in a multitude of ways. When we provide home programs, we also provide little tracking sheets that they can tick off, and we get them to report back to us on how they're going with those exercises. We encourage them to visit the community facility that we've recommended and take pictures of the machines and try and match it up to the machines that they're doing here, so that they are learning of the exercises and they can understand that they can do it themselves. They know what they're doing. And then again, we identify and are knowledgeable on the appropriate community services. So we've worked really hard over the past 3 years to be aware of what services exist in the community, all through different, I suppose, price points, different locations, private, public, all of the above, so that we are aware of all the different options that we can suggest to patients. And we've worked with different companies to provide pathways programs, so that we're confident in our discharge planning that we know what we're sending people to. And built in with that, we also endeavour to provide a handover to the patient and the new community-based service that they will transition into. And we do this in the form of the patient will typically get a paper copy of, I suppose, their outcomes, how well they've done, and what exercises they have been completing at our strong gym. And then we also send a similar handover to the new exercise facility, so that when our patients present, the facility knows a little bit about them already. Following on from that, the overlap stage is super important for developing confidence. So we encourage our patients, potentially say in their 6th of 8th week, we need to start encouraging them then to go and visit their new exercise facility, and maybe they watch a class or they talk to the manager, and we just trying to get them to troubleshoot any issues while they're still with us, so that when they are discharged, they are confident that they know exactly where they're going, how to get there, who's running the class, what they'll be doing, all of those different things. A big part of our program is that social aspect. We're a group environment, and we know that socialization is a motivator for exercise. So that's why we really like referring people to group classes that replicate our environment, because they're not alone. And we like to upskill new services about aged care considerations and strong. And that an example is what I'm doing today. We present at our a hospital-wide. We present about what we're doing. We present district-wide, a little bit bigger. We have lots of student placements come in. So we're really trying to push the message out about our service and what we can do. But I think what I suppose a lot of you are probably interested in is what can you do if you don't have a strong service? And in an ideal world, every hospital has a strong service, but we know that's not the case. So I've included some websites here. So I think first port of call is to look at local councils. Typically, local councils will run group seniors exercise classes in their community-based gyms. And these classes are typically low cost as well. For the New South Wales audience in the room, we use this Active and Healthy website a lot. And essentially, it is any community-based group exercise program for older adults. You can just enter the postcode and a bunch of classes appear. For those not in New South Wales, I would recommend the ESSA website here. So Finding an Exercise Physiologist. ESSA is our exercise physiology accrediting national body, and their Find an EP page is again, enter a postcode and every accredited exercise physiologist close to you will appear. And that's very similar for physiotherapists because we know that physios work quite closely to us and what we do and we can work together. So either an exercise physiologist or a physiotherapist, whatever you have available to you. The final two websites and URLs here are some pictures and brochures for safe exercise to do at home. And we really encourage our geriatricians and the GPs to have this information readily available so that when someone comes to them and potentially there's a bit of a wait to come to us at Strong, they can provide this general but safe exercise advice so people can start doing something at home, because something is always better than nothing. And that's the end of my presentation for today. I hope you've all learnt something, but I hope as well there's some questions because I would love to answer them and hopefully share a little bit more about what we're doing or how you could do something similar in your line of work. But if you would like to contact me, my email address is there on the screen. And I'm happy to answer any questions at any time. So thank you very much for having me today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ella. So we do now have some time for Q&A. So I can already see there's a few people who have got burning questions. So before we get to those, I'll just let everybody know how they can ask a question. So if you have questions, please submit them now through the Q&A function, which can be opened using the Q&A tab at the top of the screen. So remember, that's the one that resembles the two speech bubbles, one with a question mark in it. Or you can use the raise your hand function, as I can see a few people have already found in the meeting controls at the top of the screen, marked with the hand symbol, and will allow you to unmute yourself and turn your camera on to ask your question. But just a reminder that you will be included in the seminar recording if you do choose to do this. You can also upvote and give thumbs up and other reactions to questions that are posted in the Q&A function, which will help us decide which ones to read out and also allow you to engage. So remember that the chat function itself is actually turned off. So I think the first person we will go to, I've got a number one next to her hand, and that's Frances Batchelor, who is, I know, is one of the directors here at NARI of Clinical Gerontology. So Dave, can you help Frances to unmute herself and turn her camera on so she can ask her question, please?
I think I've got my microphone on, if you can hear me.
Yep.
Thanks, Ella. That was a great presentation. Or I can put my camera on now. Thanks for talking about the Safe Exercise at Home website. I was involved in setting that one up, so thanks for the PR there. I had a question. I guess it's kind of resource intensive. You've got comprehensive geriatric assessment, you've got high levels of supervision. Where does the funding come from for this program?
Yes, that's a great question. So the funding, it is all through the Ministry of Health, New South Wales Government, and that is why there's only 2 strong services running. So it obviously took, so Balmain was established 1999 out of a research study, and it took them 20 years to prove that they were effective, and then we were able to get the funding for our service. And we have tried to then upskill and get a few more clinicians because, as I said, we've got a 10-month wait list. But unfortunately, there's no more funding coming. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, have you done health economic evaluations? Because that would be the strongest argument then in saving the hospitalizations and so on that could then be invested in these kind of programs.
It's interesting you say that because we are currently underway with a health economic evaluation to help, put forward our case a bit stronger. So yes, that is on the way.
Great. I do have another question,
Yeah.
but I'll let Jane. I think Jane's got her hand up too, so I won't hog the question time.
Jane, did you want to ask your question with your microphone and your camera, or I've seen that you put something in the chat as well? All right, well, while Jane's having a think, I can probably read out Jane's question and she might have a follow-up. I'll start, she's referred to Pazit's question, so I'm going to start with Pazit's question and then I'll go back to Jane's as well. So Pazit, who also works here at NARI, says, great presentation, thank you. Do you have some data about adherence following discharge? So for example, if people maintained their exercise routine. Also, do you see patients return to the program after discharge? So, for example, they've been in the community, maybe they haven't been able to maintain their physical activity participation and then experience further deconditioning and returning to the program. And Jane's question was similar as well around evidence of sustainability of physical activity.
Yeah, those are two great questions and timely as well because we've recently just had a student placement block that finished last week and their project was to analyse our 3-month post-discharge exercise adherence. So currently we have data from 150 patients. At 3 months post, we've asked them to fill out a questionnaire. Essentially, that questionnaire is how many days of the week are you exercising? Where are you exercising? Are there any barriers, motivators, etc.? So from that data of 150 patients, we haven't quite analysed it into a report as such yet, but the average is about 60% of patients are still exercising on more than 2 days of the week, which is in line with the Australian Physical Activity Guidelines. So that is promising to us, but again, we're going to analyse those responses a little bit more and figure out potentially how we can improve discharge planning. My initial thought of that is that patients need more sustained contact in that transition phase, and that's obviously resource heavy. So we will analyse that, but we are currently trying to understand what the 3-month, 6-month post program, what people are doing and that exercise adherence. And then with the second part of that question, yes, patients can be re-referred and returned to the program. We obviously know that in this population specifically, there can be a number of sudden health changes. So we do accept people to be referred back if they have had an acute change in their health, such as a fall, if they've had, a fracture, a complete and say, for example, a neck or femur fracture with a hip replacement, they complete the appropriate rehab and then they come back into us for that continued rehab. So there are ways to come back into the program, but ideally we want people to have at least a go in the community. So we try and make it, if there's been no health changes, at least a minimum a year until they can be re-referred back. But currently the people that we've seen twice have all had a significant health change and have warranted that kind of need for a bit of a boost. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ella. I've got another question here from Claire. So Claire says, hi, Ella, thank you for today. I really love the program you've developed. Is a strong program a trademarked program? I would love to develop something similar at our health service.
Cool. That is a great question. So strong, the title acronym does belong to New South Wales Health, but you could obviously, so the name you probably can't take, but what we do, you can definitely apply in your own health service there. Yeah.
Great. I had a question. Just wondering around other kinds or similar sorts of programs that are available. So, for example, pulmonary rehab.
Yeah.
How do you decide who might go into pulmonary rehab and who might go into strong? Because often you mentioned that you obviously accept people who have chronic disease, so that tend similar with pulmonary rehab, and often the people who are attending pulmonary rehab are quite deconditioned and frail as well. So just wondering if there was a distinction between the two.
So typically, if we do see that referral to two services, we would prioritise that patient to see pulmonary rehab because they've obviously been referred there because of their exacerbation of COPD, etc. So pulmonary rehab is the best service to address those symptoms. So we would always say to the patient, go there first, do that duration of the program, say it's 12 weeks. And then following that program, we would then talk, well, at least we do in this hospital here, we then talk with the physios running pulmonary rehab, and they suggest, yes, the patient has done well with us. I think they would then benefit from strong, doing more resistance-based training as opposed to probably aerobic-based training. But if the patient finishes pulmonary rehab and is competent to exercise independently and pulmonary rehab create a discharge plan into a community exercise program, then we are happy that they've done that and they are fine. They don't need to see us at strong, but obviously know that we exist should things change. So I suppose the short answer of that is if the patient is referred to a more specific, because obviously our criteria is very broad. So if there's a specific rehab stream for them, we would recommend they do that first and then can come to us.
And do they have to go on the 10-month wait list?
They would typically, like, for example, say we get a referral today, they would go onto the wait list, but they'd finish pulmonary rehab and when we could probably get them in. We also have something like transitional aged care programs, like post-acute hospital stay, and we kind of try and tee those referrals up that they finish that program and can start with us. So yeah, the wait list can be changed.
Yeah. I know it's always tricky managing wait lists.
Yeah.
It's good to be popular, but yeah, you don't necessarily want a wait list because you don't want people waiting. I'm going to continue a question from Thea. So Thea's asked a question about wait lists as well, which I think you've already answered. And also obviously around, you mentioned that you're looking at health economics around the program. How are you going, how can we stay informed about that, I guess is the question, because obviously if people are, inspired by your outcomes and are wanting to present a case to their health service, that it'd be great to have, your experience as an example.
Yeah, I suppose, so I'm actually writing this health economics evaluation as part of my final master's capstone project. So that's due to finish in June next year. And I'm happy to distribute the findings maybe through NARI, and they can then broadcast to the wider streams there. Or if you'd like to, contact me directly through my email. But yeah, maybe Amy and Dave, I'm happy to, continue that relationship and can keep you in the loop of what we're up to and present our findings to you so that you can distribute accordingly.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe we can book you in for another Seminars in Aging this time next year.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the audience before we let everyone go a little bit early? Just give you a few minutes to have a think. Oh, yep. We've got one from Lavanya. Lavanya, did you want to turn your camera and your microphone on to ask your question? Dave can probably help you.
I'll turn my mic on.
Thanks, Lavanya.
Turn my camera on as well. Thanks, Ella, for a wonderful presentation. I work in the falls prevention space, so and I'm a physio by background, so really interested in what other people do and what the outcomes are. I just wanted to comment, 10 months seems like a very long wait for a program like this, and you because you include people with frailty and falls and that. and a lot can happen in that, like, 10 months. So I'm just thinking, if you identify that someone is high risk, I don't think you would make them wait for 10 months. So you, like, what are some of your risk minimizing measures whilst people sit on your wait list?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question,
Yeah.
because I have a few things to tell you about that. I was waiting
Yeah.
for someone to ask. No. Firstly, I will say our wait list did used to be over 12 months. So we've worked really hard this year to cut it down. So it's actually the lowest it's ever been. But obviously, especially last year when we were over 12 months, we said this is not great for this population whose health needs are changing so rapidly and are such high risk. So we started 2 different offerings. The first was that anyone on our wait list, we invited to fortnightly education sessions run by our dietitian and our exercise physiologist. And the EP provided home exercise safe that they could do, and the dietitian provided just generalized strategies. We then used this education session when we're meeting 20 patients at a time to kind of do a physical triage quickly of, okay, can we identify any high risk people here? So that was one strategy we've implemented. We then, in conjunction with our physio colleagues, have started a 7-week falls prevention balance specific program. So therefore, the referrals we get that are falls plus declining mobility. And if we intervene now, specifically with functional and balance exercises, hopefully we can reduce future falls risk. So we've then started this 7-week EP and physio-led balance program that we're getting some of our higher fallers into that, getting them doing some exercise, and then they come and see us. So those 2 programs have just allowed us to have that first contact with patients sooner. And again, we're trying to figure out who could wait 6 months and who do we need to see now. We then have 3 prioritization criterias. So when we're getting the referrals from the geriatricians, we're then screening anyone who's had multiple falls recently, sudden weight loss, a decline in function, ADLs becoming harder. That's kind of who we target to kind of prioritize. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ella. We've got another question from Robin. So Robin has asked, is the Centre for Strong Medicine at Pymble associated with your service?
So the Pymble service is a private service, so not associated with us, but the lead researcher who started the Balmain program then left Balmain to create her own private practice. So it is the principles are the same, but completely different programs. So Pymble is private, patients have to pay, and it's also there's no time restriction. So our program, 8 to 12 weeks. At Pymble, you can go for years and years.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ella. Just Jane has asked a question, and it may have, you've covered some of it, but just around obviously the outcomes and sharing the findings. So you mentioned that you're going to be using this example as part of your own study, but is it something that's likely to be published in any journals? Like has there been ethics approval and so on to allow for that?
Yeah. I am working within New South Wales Health, Sydney Local Health District. We're very fortunate to have 2 professors of allied health. So I'm working with them to obtain ethics approval. But we also have 3 years essentially of outcome measures and data that we, if we get a little bit more time, would love to turn into a published piece of work. So we do have all the support around us. It's just finding the time to look at our database and analyze all of the outcomes we've had so that we could publish it. In the past 3 years, we have presented at a number of conferences, but no published work as of yet, but it's definitely in the works.
Fantastic. Sounds like there'd be lots of people that are keen to read something that if you had the chance to put something together. So that would be great. So I can't see any further questions. So if that is the case, I'd like everyone to thank Ella very much and join me in thanking her by using your clap reactions, which everyone's doing now. Fantastic. So that was a great presentation. Thank you so much, Ella. It's always great to hear about great work that's achieving good outcomes in terms of outcome measures that are relevant, obviously, to function, but also to patient experience too. So I love that you've got the patient experience measure in there. That's wonderful. So next month, join us on Tuesday, the 18th of November at 12 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time, where we'll be showcasing some presentations from NARI researchers that are hot off the press. So some of the topics that you'll hear from will include intergenerational programs in residential aged care, and also improving palliative care in residential aged care using health, telehealth, and other different modalities, but also looking at palliative care from the perspective of carers and family members as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks in particular to Ella for her fantastic presentation. Thank you to the audience for your wonderful questions, and thank you to the NARI staff for assisting in putting all of this together. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Well done, Ella. That was wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
That was a really great presentation. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. That was great fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really keen. I'd love to do a tour of the facility up there. Do you have on your, your website at the hospital there? Do you have any,
Yeah.
video clips or things like that? I might kind of snoop the website
Yeah.
and, see
We-
the facility remotely.
We do. Yeah, we're very lucky. We're in a brand new building, actually. So everything is top notch. The equipment in the gym is worth a lot of money. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
lucky in the facilities that we have here. So yeah, go look on the website. There's
Yeah.
pictures, videos. Yeah.
Yeah, how much did that new step cost? I want to
Yeah.
get one of those for
The-
my workstation here when I'm
Yeah.
at home,
The new steps,
That'd be pretty
15
cool.
grand.
That's about
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
about right. But
Yeah.
they're fairly new pieces of equipment, but maybe they're old enough where there might be used models that some
Yeah.
facilities might let go for a reduced rate
less.
price or something like that. But
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, beside the fact. I had a question for you. I didn't want to take your time during the presentation, but if you don't mind,
Yeah.
early in your presentation, you were talking about some of the recommendations there. I remember recommendation 3 was around polypharmacy and trying to address that and de-prescribe when appropriate. I imagine that's overseen by the geriatricians that are working as part of that collective service.
Yeah, so those 3 recommendations, I suppose the first one is the case for us being involved. The second,
Yeah.
Jerry's are very important in a lot of other aspects, but specifically they're doing that de-prescribing or communications with GP, other specialists. And then the third case there was for the dietitian to be involved.
Absolute team approach, collaboration, interdisciplinary. That's fantastic. Do you have any extension to that question? Do you have any sort of data on like the effectiveness of being able to de-prescribe when appropriate and when it works, of course? Like, I'm just curious. My eyes picked up. I thought, wow, that's neat. Like, you got 85-year-olds coming in with, comorbidities and polypharmacy issues, and you're trying to, get them right, get them strong, get them balancing better, and reduce outcomes. That would be a really cool outcome to, have some data on 12% reduction in, sort of unnecessary medications or the ability to reduce or manage comorbidities and get off some of these medications. And
Yeah.
that would be really cool.
I might actually mention that to the geriatricians. Yeah, that could be a great study to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
Interesting.
that. Yeah.
Oh, hey, hey, don't steal my idea. No, I'm just kidding. I picked up. I thought that was really
Yeah.
quite neat. I'd just be curious, if it's not being tracked, that'd be really interesting data, especially if it's, quite successful. You got these people who are motivated, engaged, going through your program. They're feeling good. They're losing weight, whatever.
Yeah.
Strong fall reduction risk and all that. But let's not forget, being able to reduce or minimize some of those medications, and their untoward effects there. My area of interest is in sarcopenia, yes, but also the associations between the gut microbiome, and I'm quite curious about the ability to try to maintain microbial diversity and their effects on muscle health, especially with aging. And one of the big triggers there are perturbations, and being on medications that kind of have an influence on the microbiome, and that spillover effect on some of the skeletal muscle health there. So that I'd love to reach out to you at some point, away from this seminar, but I'd love to chat with you about if your team is thought to run, some sort of, studies within your service there, looking at microbiome changes throughout your program there. I'd be really keen to put a project proposal together and try to get some funding and send some materials up your way and run a bit of a project. That'd be really fascinating.
That'd be great. Yeah, please be in contact. Yeah, we can
absolutely
see how that works. Yeah.
Ella, I thought that. Oh, sorry, go, Dave.
Oh, I just realized I think we're still recording. My apologies. I just, wanted to thank you for your time and congratulate. That was a wonderful presentation. What do we do here at the wind down? If I hit end event, I'm sure that'll stop recording. That might just kick us all out. So before I do that, is there any,
I was just going to add, I thought that Pazit might mention it. Ella, have you seen some of NARI's work on the Enjoy Seniors Exercise Parks?
No.
So have a look at our website. So Pazit, who asked one of the questions, she's one of our senior researchers. She's done a lot of work in outdoor exercise parks, but not only in installation, and most of them are in Victoria, but I think there is one in New South Wales, to be honest. There's one in Tassie and one in sure there's one in New South Wales. But so not just around installation, but actually what they refer to as activation. So similar thing around, well, it's great to get a park, it's great to get a program, but how do you actually engage people? How do you keep them engaged longer term? So they do a lot of work with local councils around train the trainer type models. So where they'll actually train community volunteers to be able to support people coming to the seniors exercise parks to continue their exercise and promote socialization. They've also done some training with health professionals, so exercise physiologists and physios around how best to use the parks, so on and so on. So we've got a whole tab on our webpage. If you go to the NARI webpage, you'll see at the top it says Enjoy, and then it's got a whole heap of information. She's got a lot of publications, locations of the park. They've got an app for exercising. So check that out. And if you have any questions, just get in touch.
No, thank you. I will. Great.
That's wonderful. Yeah. You mentioned that you're finishing up your master's. Is that correct, Ella?
Yes, I am.
Congratulations. Good luck with it. I hope it goes all well.
Thank you very much.
As Amy mentioned, we'd love to, of course, we'll keep touch with you here. We'd love to hear how things are going and share some of the outcomes of this wonderful work that you're doing. But it could be a great time to kind of update our audience here, through this opportunity, perhaps sometime, down the track when you're submitted or got some of those key publications that you want to showcase. We'd be very happy to hear updates and how things are going. And
I think our December, that's what's happening with our December presenter, actually. She presented last December.
Yeah.
And so now she's coming back this December to present an update. So
you've got a big group of groupies here that we want to hear how things are going with you and your team and your works up there. May I ask when your the submission date is, or what targets that you might be working towards?
June next year.
Okay.
Is the plan. Yes.
All right. We're going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
No, that's close. Great. Wonderful. All right. Last few months. Well, good luck to it. That's a colossal amount of work on top of the work that you're doing clinically there in the facility. Well, wonderful. I think that's kind of it for closure and debrief. Did you have any feedback for us, Ella? Anything that you wanted to share or any perspectives or?
No, that was great. Thank you so much for having me along to chat and share what we do. And yes, I'm more than happy to come again in another year and update. And so you've got my contact details. So please be in touch.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And come along to our next seminar in aging. You can hear about some of our NARI work too.
Yeah, now I've got it. Yeah, I will.
That's it. And if there's anyone, if you have any colleagues who are sort of interested, obviously, in either attending our events or just even linking in with some of our research, please feel free to pass on their details.
I will. Yeah. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, have a good
Thank you
week.
so much.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.